And I find myself as a kind of like in a situation where I find that the AI that we have been doing as an engineer probably is not really helping the people as much as we wanted to. And then so I took a choice to actually work in the social science place, and I think it's at the end of the talk you would also understand where I'm coming from. I would think that now it's time for computer science to be in social science, and that's like the whole idea of this talk. So the title actually says kind of like has this negative connotation here, right? I mean, it says like why AI remains unreliable for development studies. So how do I go to the next one? All right. So what I think is like this is the reason why. So AI fails to deliver because the dominant AI that we talk about now. I mean, so it's an umbrella term. We all know that, and we should not mix up with different types of types of AI that we actually all do. But the dominant AI at present has these two terrible problems. One is they're showing capabilities, but creating production transformation is not really happening, right? And second is ecosystem is sustainable. And the reason why I think that is like there are like three different dimensions that we need to actually navigate here to really find out the reason. So first is philosophical, and it's part of my title. The issue is epistemic disalignment. Second one is technical, and this is the absolute incapability of continual learning. And the third is economic, because the market that we are working on is two-stage market, and it is hard to regulate. So I will be talking about these three things in the sequence. And because of time, I will probably skip some of the slides, but it's okay, because the slides probably will be open for you guys to actually scrutinize later. All right, so I will start with some philosophical questions, and I don't know, I mean, I'm assuming that everybody actually knows about these terms, but these are really hard terms to talk about. But then we will start with this idea, like, one is ontology, the other one is epistemology. Now, what are these? Now, the ontological questions are very much like, what is reality? And then is it single or multiple? Is it dependent or on the observer, or is it absolutely agnostic of the observer? These are the questions that we try to ask on that. However, the epistemological questions actually dwell into these two things: how the knowledge about reality is produced, and what is the valid knowledge about reality. So the question is validity of the knowledge and the production of the knowledge, how it was produced. So it actually says that there is a person behind you who has the power to tell you that this knowledge is valid and that knowledge is not valid, right? So it actually intrinsically says that. And I mean, so if we actually go through that type of paradigm, then this conventional responses to this type of question are similar to this. So how knowledge is about reality is produced, who produces valid knowledge? Knowledge is produced through systematic research, experimentation. I mean, rigor in knowledge that we talk about, produced by the universities, academic disciplines. We are the people who actually says that this is the knowledge and this is not the knowledge, etc. So at the end, the answer that we want to give is what is valid knowledge. Now, I want to get back to this guy, Christopher Columbus. Now, I like that guy because when I grew up in the US, and then when I was there, that day was really funny, Columbus Day. And I actually thought this is the guy who discovered parts of the world that was never known. So my favorite hero was Captain Cook, one of the other discoverers, and I loved him so much. And I used to watch those things that they, so like, he goes to the Australian, Australia and New Zealand and everything, and he sees people, how people greet them and how he interacts people. And the knowledge that I get from this amazing, I would say, movies, etc., is that these people were the ones who actually enlightened people there. These people were the ones who basically went there, brought civilization, right? And that's a dominant knowledge. Now, this Hugh Thomas is a very interesting guy. He wrote 3 volumes. I've never read 3 volumes, but I actually have that because my wife is a historian, and we have that, and very interesting and very beautiful book, actually. And he basically used this thing. He basically said that 1492 was an eye-opening time when these explorers went to those places and opened up the ways of everything, like modernity, that we actually call modernity, started from that thing. So he attributed him as that, as an explorer, as the person who was basically, if he wasn't there, then all sorts of what modernity probably would not enlighten the parts of the world that we are actually we all different color people are coming from. Now then it took a long time and a lot of courage for other people to come up, like for instance Howard Zinn, to actually look at alternative information. I'm not even using the word knowledge. So if you look at how people actually talk about, they say that the part that Hugh Thomas and others actually were talking about, that's knowledge, but the other things, Zinn and others, these are like information. And that actually says that he forced Indians to collect golds for him, or else they would die. About 50,000 Indians, had to commit suicide, and then there are a lot of stuff people had to kill, and even they found his letters where he actually said that he sent the letter saying that, okay, these people are really credulous, they're very nice people, and we could actually enslave them anytime, right? That's what we basically did. Now the question is he a murderer, or is he an enlightener? A person who brought enlightenment in that part of the world. Now, that depends on the social construct of knowledge. Now, knowledge is closely tied to power, and that's what Mr. Foucault said. And then, if you look at David Harvey, they basically said that it is situated. So it means that it's produced from specific perspective. So the perspective of this part of the world that actually went there, and it actually needed as well. Look, like if you tell people that Columbus was the first ever war crime committer in the world, you probably would not take it so greatly, right? So it is also important for the nationhood of this part of the world as well. So I wouldn't say that it's absolutely bad to do that, but it is, in a global perspective, is not that great. So knowledge is situated, and so then the question comes, like, whose knowledge counts, and for whom, right? So when we think about these two things, the first thing that comes up is epistemic injustice. So they basically say that there are 2 types of epistemic injustice. One is the one that actually when one of the group lacks the social and conceptual resources to make sense of their own experiences. They just don't have it. They have experience, they know it, but they just cannot say it in a way that this is the thing that makes me. The other one is testimonial injustice, when the speaker does not have the voice. You just, you basically dominate them so much that you just don't do that. Now, see, like, the why I'm saying these things, this is exactly what's happening in our current AI mechanism, right? So that's the reason why we are actually, talking about this stuff. So the question is, can non-European think? So that's a famous book of Hamid Dabashi. And, I didn't put the picture here for the sake of, sanity, because it was actually the book has a cover picture of a a guy who's, I mean, a white guy who's reading a book, and while, some slaves, like Indian slaves, in African, context was, trying, one was doing manicure, I guess, or pedicure, yeah, pedicure, and the other person is, waving the what do you call that thing? The fan, yeah, right. A big fan or something like that. Probably there's a name for that kind of fan, like, big. Anyways, so that's the thing. So the thinker is thinking, you think about Rhoda, and not in that mood, but it's just like, really at ease and thinking, and while, the people who can't think are doing their business as well. Now, it's not him, it's basically everyone. So Immanuel Kant, and it's really interesting because these are the things that when you actually look at, you feel like, we call them amazing philosophers, but he basically is, I mean, if you write down right now, you write it, people will be, destroying, I guess, I wouldn't utter the words that he said. I mean, he basically said that, any Negro has, there's no Negro that has shown any talent, and asserts that among the hundreds of thousands blacks who are transported elsewhere. I mean, so yeah, so nobody has any talent, right? Except for his own race. So that's what he said. And this is, and very important thing is like, this guy actually said that when? In 60s, right? But didn't start then, right? Start from long back. Now, if you look at the legacy, this systematic epistemicide has started long back. It was, probably started like from the day one of conquistadors when going there and, doing their business. And Hegel, one of the other, prominent guy. And why I'm using this word, because these philosophies are now guiding AIs. So imagine, he basically said that Indian philosophy is a kind of dream philosophy. I don't even know if he has ever read anything Indian, but it's really funny, but this is how he saw it in his own word. So nothing to say, right? So this systematic epistemicide is, creates this living philosophers versus dead philosophers. Now, what I'm saying here is that these philosophers, like Socrates, and others, like the ones that I say, are living amongst us. We're just like, talking about them all the time, right? But you don't know Atish Dipankar, you don't know Bharati Rai, you don't know Avana Gupta. All these people were philosophers who made the whole idea of India and other places. I'm just using those because these are some of them I kind of know, but there are millions others, right? Or if not like at least thousands others, right? In China, in Persia, and other places, we don't know them. They're there, but they're just dead. So this thing of, it's called sociology of absence, and this was coined by Santos, and he's very, I mean, his book is amazing. He's kind of radical guy. He basically wants to say that, Europeans cannot teach anymore, because, Europeans cannot learn anymore because they only teach. So because they only teach, they should stop learning. And so we should de-link whatever that has happened. But I don't, buy that idea. But what I'm trying to say here is that, these things, these people were brave enough to talk about those stuff. And that actually led to the thinking, which we call post-colonial thinking. And then we talked about decolonization, etc. What they say is, it's a very important thing to understand and remember that there's a distinction that there's there. One is non-West is illogical, mysterious, static, while West, on the other hand, is logical and cultural. That's how it is, right? And if that is the main case, when you have others, dead, and these philosophers are reigning, and you have this thought of mysticity versus, logic, etc. In that sense, even if we talk about decolonization, it is not easy at all. It is not. Why? Because we talk about universality versus pluriversality, because this I versus we. This Descartesian think of like I am there, I think therefore I am. It's like you have to change it into we, and it doesn't make sense for us, right? I mean, where this we comes from? How do we do that? So the problem is we love I because it's easy. It has a formula. The formula is we know what is democracy. We know what is citizenship. We know what is human right. We know them. So it's easy. But we don't really know what the other thing is, the universality, the pluriversality space would look like. As there is no formula, we are not ready for anything on that. So it's not that only there is this epistemicide going on, it's also there is no way we could actually go forward because we are not delving into the formulas here. So when we have this, there are two ways to actually solve. One is epistemic delinking, that is you just totally delink the whole thing and you build your own by yourself. The other one is epistemic fusion, that you infuse both of them together. So one, I would think, and I think first one is master's tools will never dismantle the master soul. So that's not going to happen. At least for AI, it's not going to happen, right? And Western knowledge is essential, but inadequate. We have to acknowledge that. So if you do use these two, you can actually do the fusion, right? Like if you believe in that. But if you don't believe in the second one, you're not going to do that. Now, problem that we actually have here is that, sorry, I think I made a mistake here, just a little bit. Sorry, oh, what? Oh no. You know what I did? I sent you, all right. I sent you a wrong PowerPoint. That's the problem. All right. No, it's okay because there are like two slides that I wanted to actually give in. But anyways, but the main point is people have tried. People have tried a lot how to solve those things. And when they try to actually do these things in AI, and there are a lot of papers that actually have described the reasons why they actually could not do those things. And the first important thing is that to think about is that there's this remedy that we all talk about is like when you try to solve this problem, and if you want to do fusion, one way is to situate yourself. You go there and understand the living space, living breathing space of the people and everything, and try to do that. But what they say is that that doesn't even work. Why it doesn't even work is very simple. Because back in your head, you are the way you're treating the other person is basically not the way he should be treated. Very simple case is that that is a kind of like a subject, not a participant. Now, how do you do that? How do you make a participant, make people your participant when you see in case of AI, there's no way you can actually do it. Why? Because the first thing is they don't have computing power, they don't have data, they don't have this and that and everything. But so you basically think that even if you don't want to be condescending, you can't be that. The second one is problem of this problem of Zeno's paradox. So Zeno's paradox is very simple. It basically says that a sportsman, he's trying to actually run against a tortoise, which is basically a little bit, he got a heads up. So the idea is there's an infinite space between the tortoise and him, and so even if the person runs faster, the tortoise will be one step ahead. So this idea of catch up. So imagine the countries that have developed AI, the languages that have developed AI, they are always in a space from where they can actually go further up, right? Whereas others are always playing catch up. So if you use this word, the word that I also use, low resource. The problem is that you basically say that everybody's trying to actually catch up. So once you say that, then you basically look at it in a different way. Now you might think that what is the connection with engineering and this philosophy and this type of looking at the definition. It's very simple because the way you do that is the way engineering is nothing but mindset. We are trying to solve problem, and we have to be open to understand the problem. If we are not doing that, and if we're thinking that it's only in the system that we can actually solve it, it's not going to work out. So the problem starts from definition. It's not in, it's not an amorphous thing. So we have to change it, I guess. Until that, this philosophy is not really helping us to actually do anything. Second one is the technological part. Now, technological part is very simple. Very simple because I don't even know why we are running, for this new AI and hyping this new AI, while we all know this is not the intelligence that we actually learned when we were even undergraduate students. I'm talking about computer scientists. I mean, we all know that, the current focus on AGI, the thing that they talk about, it's actually, it has benchmarks, right? But are those benchmarks looking at, I mean, these are benchmarks that, influence progress, but are they looking at anything to do with intelligence and learning? Can we say them? Let's imagine, what benchmarks are we looking at? So, none of them measure intelligence. I'm saying it because, intelligence is not measure of how many tasks AI can do. That's what I think. And just imagine the benchmarks that we use for our papers and think about what we actually do. All of them basically actually talking about that. But I think it's the opposite way around. So they started to, and it's kind of condescending as well, because these people are the pioneers. In Dartmouth College conference, this was the letter was sent. They actually wanted to do it in 2 months with 10 people. They wanted to know what is intelligence. They actually thought that they're going to make an intelligent machine in just 2 months time. Imagine now we are still talking about that. What we did is we changed the word AI into AGI, and then we are still talking about the same thing. That's it. These are amazing, brains, and many of them actually invented a lot of things that we are talking about. Starting from neural networks to reinforcement learning to anything. But still, we don't know what really we mean by intelligence. Now, for the sake of benchmarking, I think a fair definition would be the ability to acquire and apply knowledge and skills. So it has to have two things. The first one is we need to find a way to see is it, and I think it goes to your work, looking at insects and and animals, etc., to understand them, how they acquire knowledge, and then how you apply them. Now, current LLMs are doing the application part. Not bad, we have benchmarks for them. But the idea is acquiring knowledge, right? Do we have any benchmark for that? No. The dominant models that we actually have, they lack the ability to learn continuously. So what I mean by that is imagine a cat or a rat or a mouse or a little baby. You don't give them the whole world of information for them to actually learn simple things that they do. And they're not really simple. Like moving from, one side of the bed to the other side, it's not that simple. I don't even know what goes on in the head of the baby, but it actually does a lot of stuff. I mean, it probably, needs to understand the environment and all, but it does, right? With not, I mean, the idea is like, you don't really need to actually have a big bulk of internet knowledge to actually do certain things. I think many of us amongst us are still doing pretty well without having internet telling them to stop. But our AIs actually cannot do anything without internet data. And the problem is that with this internet data paradigm, is that once you get the data, you stop learning. Like you get the whole thing trained, now your time to deployment, there's no learning. Well, there are people who say, oh, we do fine tuning, we do in context, learning, etc. But we all know what those are, just to tell you about fine tuning. Fine tuning normally, I mean, I don't know how many people actually does that, but the engineers, we basically what we do is that you we do once, and if you do twice, more than twice, or then even 3 or 4 or 5 times, basically you are lost. I mean, the whole thing, the whole machine actually forgets whatever it learned. So you cannot do that. So this process does not give you the basic need. It doesn't let you acquire knowledge. And also it slowly loses ability to learn over time. Now, this is the process we have, right? I just wanted to, we train, we fine tune, we do, reinforcement learning with human in the loop, etc. We test, we deploy, and after that, no learning, of course. I mean, as I said, like, a little bit of, ways are there to actually put in there, but those are kind of like patchworks, right? So the main focus of current AI is how can I get more data? And to be honest, like, these machines without data do not work. I mean, without huge, humongous amount of data do not work. That's the problem. I mean, you have huge compute power, but very little data, it won't work. So the idea of scaling that we talk about, it's not about, it's not about computing power. We always talk about scaling as if like, you're increasing computing, but it's computing and data, both. And there are news coming out now that they're saying like, okay, they're running out of, amount of data that they actually need. So it actually shows that this is basically a failure case, right? So if that is the case, then you need to think about scaling in a different way. You need to think, so I mean, as a computer scientist, I would think that if a very little amount of data and amazing amount of computing should let me do something. That's like a very naive way of saying that. But that's what I think, I think we are all doing. I guess the brains that we actually have huge amount of computing power, but very limited amount of data. And so if you want to really use AI for good, you need to solve that problem, that technical problem. Until that, the current goal is not really getting you there. And the worst part is like we are all talking about AGI, which is not coming. It's like waiting for Godot. But there's some people are saying that it's coming. I don't know what's the date that he gave. 2025. I don't know. Yeah, right.
It's shifting. So
it's just yeah, but it's with this lousy type of AI, it's not gonna come. I mean, even if it's amazing, it's not gonna come with this lousy AI. But it actually pays well for the people who are in the market, not for computer scientists. So what we need is like some kind of a single phase AI that is capable of continual learning. And to be honest, like it is not something new that we're actually talking about. In 30s, when they basically did the Thomas Ross, like thinking machine, the robotic rat, the mechanical machine, these things were there. They were basically trying to imitate animal. Well, we just we're not talking about them anymore. We're not talking about memoized search. Donald Michie. I mean, he's the one who talked about this idea of like, RL is about search and memory both together. So we forgot that. I mean, it's very funny because computer scientists are really running to do a lot of other things except for that. So anyways, I'll not talk about those things. I think there's a third part that I wanted to talk about, and because of the glitch of not having this right slide on, that's about the economic part. And I don't know how many people understands two-stage market. It actually says that a market. So market in economic terms is the place where you actually do all sorts of trades, right? So two-stage market is a market system where there are producer and consumers in two stages. So what happens is that in AI, there are producers like who are producing chips, cloud services, etc., and the consumers are the developers. So there's this one market system going on there. The other market system is like this developers with the users like us, right? The second market system, where we have other applications what we're using. Now, this is very, the analogy is like, electricity marketplace. So the people who, produce energy and the people who buy energy for us, and then we buy from them, like in the later part. So two-stage. Now, the problem with two-stage system is that if it is not heavily regulated, then there are ways to actually go around. So things coming out like regulatory capture, which is economists talk about a lot, where the bureaucrats not knowing or understanding the system would actually take and as, okay, I think you are a very brilliant guy, I would take your advice. Or maybe he comes with some money and tells me to do the stuff, and I do that for him. So this capture comes in not because the bureaucrats are inherently bad. It's because like bureaucrats need information and they don't have the source to get it. So the ones who are mightier comes in. Then there's another problem of that we call Baptists and bootleggers. Basic idea is that there are people who are naively supporting certain things, like for instance saying that you should not drink, you should not, we should not sell beer because it's very bad. But in that way, what they're doing is like they're saving the market for only few oligopolists. Now, in that case, regulation is not possible. In AI, that's another problem as well. So because of these three things, one, economic, second, this structural problem that we actually have, and the third, the philosophical problem that we have, it is actually impossible to think that the current AI system will be able to give us any type of development service. And we just have to think that we have to invent new AI. I don't know how to do that, but we have to do that. And that should start from the universities. All right, that's it. Sorry about the glitch.
We have a few minutes left for questions, which is good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I was just wondering your opinion about this kind of epistemic gap, I guess, that we have with knowledge from different perspectives. And obviously, most of the knowledge which goes into large language models is written in English, so you obviously have that bias from those perspectives. But it also, I imagine, because of the way the original data is being created by scraping the internet, like using basically all the text on Reddit, for example, it probably contains a large number of conflicting opinions from which just exist in the pre-training process, and then maybe these get filtered out with the reinforcement learning. So I'm just wondering if maybe there is, at some sense, this kind of fusion happening from whatever is written in English. Obviously, it's not all perspectives, but there are going to be a number of perspectives, and I wonder if that kind of gets cancelled out by the RLHF.
I wish, but I don't think that it's actually easy. I mean, first of all, like the reason why it's not easy is that the way RL works is very simple. I mean, it actually, you need to actually have enough evidence to make sure that the whatever which way RL is actually working. So give you an example of like, one of the project that I'm doing with with our students. I mean, we are trying to actually teach a robot to be working with a self-driving car, and drive alongside, human drivers. Now, human drivers are rash and whatever they do and everything. And so sometimes you imitate the better things they do, and sometimes you just imitate the worst things they do. The whole idea was the robot to actually learn how to go and navigate the rotundas, like, the Spanish rotunda or the Portuguese, what do you call them?
Roundabout.
Roundabouts, okay, yeah, exactly. I use this word because I was in Portugal a lot, and rotunda is the thing. And it's really crazy because in the US you don't have it. But they have different rules. So in Spain, I mean, you just, whenever you go there, you should wait for the other car to actually pass. But Portugal, you don't do that. Now, if you do that, then there will be a car coming and, crush you. Now, how does the robot learn? So we tried this RL mechanism so that, like, we give them absolutely no knowledge, and they go there and crash and learn everything. Turns out that, they basically learn whatever is, whatever the humans do. And if you increase the volume a little bit, I think it's like 5347 or something like that, the volume of, like, certain trait, they just, flip to that. So I am not too sure in case of what you're saying, like, of course, Reddit, and they have the conflicting, information, knowledge, everything. I'm not too sure many people are talking against Hegel, talking against Kant, and talking about those, ideas there. I think, of course, like, these things are being trained to be more modest and all those stuff, but that's like, patchwork, I would say, not really a remedy to the problem.
I was talking more about the pre-training phase where it just does this next token prediction.
Yeah.
So then it's just learning whatever patterns it's seeing. So then
Absolutely.
it probably has a lot of very random and what most people would consider terrible opinions as well.
Absolutely, and amazing thing is, like, they learn from YouTube videos to, text, everything text, but video text to what do you call, like, Reddit and everything. I mean, how would you even, like, imagine, like, there's some certain type of teaching going on there. So, single, the way we do that is exponential, right? I don't learn the whole internet. Whatever I'm talking about is, like, how, whatever things that I have learned, like, over the time, the things came up, the books that I'm talking about, I didn't know about them until I married my wife, because she actually brought those books at home, and I read them, and that actually created some sort of different thing. So I am with computer scientists, I'm with, social scientists. So I'm in a very great position to learn different things, which in many cases, many people don't have. So, I'm pretty much sure this AI does not have that. So, yeah.
But why is that any better? Because I guess we have more narrowed, like, you happen to be lucky that somebody knew the book and you've learned that information, but had you not married your wife, you wouldn't have read those books, and you'd have a different opinion. And really our opinions are based on, so if you grew up in a conservative family, you might be conservative, or you might rebel against it and be more liberal. There's still all of these, our experiences that make us have opinions. Those opinions might indeed be wrong or right. But AI is drawing all information, including some terrible opinions as well as good opinions. And we do see with, like, ChatGPT, if you ask it a political view or something, it will try and be unbiased, and it will say, well, some people feel this and some people feel that. And it does give you an unbiased view to help. So I guess, like, why is our learning any better than the AI?
Well, I mean, to be honest, like, when you're talking about an AI that is helpful for everyone, then there is a problem. But if you're thinking about, like, just another AI, like my own AI could be really a biased right-wing guy. I love that AI. I mean, it's just like, helping me. It's like always talking to me, and I'm like, I'm okay with that. But the thing is, like, when you build a system that is supposed to actually reduce a lot of problems, right? And it has to be designed in such a way that it does not inherently have those problems at the beginning. So when I was saying that, it's not only information, it's the way you collect the information. So if you are having this idea, the notion of, the Hegelian idea of how the worldview should be, or the Descartesian thought of only think about me, then you have a lot of problems with the people who are with we, right? So it's just like, fighting it out there. But do you want an AI that is in this fighting it out position, or do you want an AI that is malleable to everything? That you make it it's a pet. Imagine a pet that you're actually growing, and I mean, it actually helps you to do your stuff. It learns from you, and it's not full of information, so that it doesn't have to always be in conflict and doesn't have to actually pay for electricity bill so much, right? So that's what I'm actually coming on. And so, but yeah, right. I don't know if I'm answering it correctly, but that's what I think.
Okay, I think you do need to go,
Yeah.
but thank you so much for sharing with us. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you.